You said you've been smoking?
Always in the case.
Yeah, I'm still humming that song too. It's good.
Did I miss it?
Somebody was humming it over there. Is that Addie?
Probably. It's one of those songs that you start singing, it goes through your head all the time.
All right, so let's reading from Devarim 8, verse 10. It says, "So you will eat and be satisfied, and you will bless Adonai your God for the good land He has given you." Let's do that. Abba, we have eaten and we're satisfied. We thank you for the land. In Yeshua's name, thank you. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so this was the passages we read from today. Was anybody confused when we got to the end of the passage where they're supposed to end, where it ends or not? Because there's a versification difference between the two there.
Where's the versification difference come between the Tanakh or between something else?
Well, the Jewish version versus the Christian version, or whatever you want.
That's a good way to say it.
So
There's
ours-
not a 29:40 in the Jewish version. It ends at verse 39 and starts with chapter 30, verse 1. That's why
So in the art scroll,
the art scroll, there's not a 29:39. There is 29:39, but not 29:40.
right? Okay, so that's what I was saying. Okay.
Here was our first verse. Pinchas is, of course, and there's, I'm not, well, one of the sons of Eli was also named Pinchas. And I've seen variations on the spelling. This is the longer version here with 5 letters. Which letter do you guess would not be present in the 4-letter version of Pinchas? If you guessed the Yud, you'd be correct.
I'd say the Yud.
He already said that. No count.
He was going to say it just as I said it.
He was thinking of it. He didn't say it.
English translation. Adonai said to Moshe, Pinchas, the son of Eleazar, son of Aaron the Cohen, has deflected my anger from the people of Israel by being as zealous as I am, so that I didn't destroy them in my own zeal. I suspect that's why our Ketuvim Netzarim reading about the Yeshua tossing the money changers and animal sellers off the temple grounds was chosen for reading today because of Pinchas as being the Torah portion. All right, so the next question would be, according to the traditional counting, there are X number of mitzvot that are positive and X number that are negative.
1,000. Well, no, but a lot.
Hold on, what's that say underneath there? Something about
The scroll of it, Sefer HaChinuk is where this count comes from. The scroll of education.
so Spain in 1980, a Hebrew university professor made a case for Pinchas himself being the author.
It's generally said to be from 13th century Spain,
Mhm.
but there was a scholar that claimed that Pinchas was in fact the author of Sefer HaChinuk.
I don't think so. I think Moses wrote
Okay,
it because you should have said so.
No. We're talking about Sefer HaKinuk.
yes.
Who was the author of Sefer HaKinuk?
Oh, okay. Well, maybe Pinchas did it.
Pinchas.
Yeah.
Pinchas?
Yeah.
Pinchas.
Pinchas.
All right, so in this section here, is it 7 positive and 11 negative, 5 positive and 2 negative, 6 positive and 0 negative, or 12 and 6. So 12 positive, 6 negative. And negative, what's the negative commandment in this sense? It's not,
Thou shalt not.
yes, it's a don't do it, not a do it or don't do it. So that's the question here. Again, this is according to Sefer HaChinuch. How many guesses for 7-11?
Well, I'm going to say that there were lots of positive ones in there, but when they are repeated
Yeah, that's the question.
every day, does it count as a new one for every day?
Or if it's counted from a different portion as well. What typically would be,
Oh, if it was already counted.
if it was already counted, it wouldn't be counted again as a separate mitzvah. But oftentimes what you'll see is the general listing of the Torah of the offerings for Sukkot would often be listed as a single mitzvah, not as each one for each of the different nuances.
It
there.
would have to be, because otherwise you would have gone way over 12, because there were probably 18, I don't know, 18, just based on the different days.
Well, that would be
So,
potentially
probably 20.
7 and 11 if that's the case.
No, because they were all positive. But is that a hint? So we should take 7 and 11 then.
I didn't say it was a hint. Don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating for any of these directly.
Yes, because you already know.
Yes, that is true, but I'm not trying to get you to guess wrong because 7 and 11 is not what is
Okay, so let's go with B then.
5 and 2.
Trying to think what to make it.
I was looking at B or D.
I should see.
All right, good one. All right, let's go.
Well, I didn't spread it out today. It's just going to
B.
be the one guess and one, the slide for the next slide is
Okay.
giving the
B.
answer. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Addie was
And
correct.
0.
Oh!
6 and 0.
6 positive and 0 negative. So reading them, take my glass off so I can see the slide here. Just a sec. Pretty small on the screen, but it's the first one is the precept on laws of inheritance. And the next one is to offer the daily burnt offering, the tamid burnt offering. The next one is to offer the additional offering for Sabbath. The next is to offer the additional offerings for the new month, Rosh Chodesh.
Shavuot.
Then is to offer the additional offerings for Shavuot. And then it says is to hear the sound of the shofar on Rosh Hashanah.
And Sukkot wasn't in there?
Sukkot was taken from a different, is from a different.
So that's
portion.
why it wasn't counted this time. So it's in there, but it's not counted.
See, I thought the two negative in there, one being the thou should not do the servitude, but after you had already said, hey, it's already been mentioned before, it's not counted, so too late. Adding once again.
The one that you can also kind of quibble with here, I think, is the last one.
The horn blowing?
Right. Because hearing the shout, Yom Teruah is literally the day of shouting.
Right.
In a term for the sound of the shofar is the shout of the shofar. But the word shofar doesn't actually appear in the text there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but so we could say to make, well, okay, so it says to hear. But to hear it, if there isn't anybody else around, you gotta be the one to make it, I suppose.
You definitely hear it now.
I would say the reasoning for the way this is formulated really is hearing the shofar is to be there when it's blown for the service. So it seems like you would be attending your local service for Yom Teruah because the shofar is going to be blown at the service. You don't have to be the people that's blowing it, to do the mitzvah is to be
So
there
you have
to
to
hear
be
it.
punctual.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, to be punctual. But it's not it's not one of the regalim. It's not a command to be where the temple or tabernacle was for Yom Teruah or Rosh Hashanah. So you don't have to necessarily leave your home to get to Jerusalem by that time to hear it, but it would be done in your local, your local Levite would be leading the service, I would guess, in your town. All right. So next slide is what I take to be the theme of the portion, and it's essentially you can reformulate the way this is said, but it's taken from Pirkei Avot, a quote from Hillel says, "And in a place where there are no men, endeavor to be a man." Now, in today's parlance, that's taken to be a sort of a weird sexual way, perhaps, but what Hillel is trying to say is, when there aren't any men doing the right thing, stand up and do the right thing.
Kind of like Pinchas.
And that's yeah. He wasn't necessarily referring to Pinchas in this case, but I think that this is the theme of the portion: stand up to do what's right. Because when you go back to the previous Torah portion, what was happening when Pinchas did his zealous act?
Where did he do it?
They were mourning the deaths.
And what was the specific command given to the tribal leadership?
To kill all of them, to purge them?
Yeah, if you look at the text, it says, it's 25 verse 4 through 5. Adonai said to Moshe, "Take all the chiefs of the people and hang them facing the sun before Adonai, so that the raging fury of Adonai will turn away from Israel." Moshe said to the judges of Israel, "Each of you is to put to death those in his tribe who have joined themselves to Baal Peor." So what was happening at this point? Then since
Were they
just
offering
then,
sacrifice to Baal Peor?
well, in
They
verse
all
3,
place.
thus Israel joined Baal Peor, the anger of Adonai, because they were essentially these women invited people to the sacrifice of their gods, Baal, where the people ate and bowed down to their gods. So, yes. Well, this is to the judges of Israel, those in his tribe, it basically is supposed to be put to death. Well, so who should have been, in that sense, the one who stood up and did the right thing?
Aharon?
The leaders.
No.
No.
What tribe was Zimri from?
Benjamin? Zimri. Oh. Kohan?
No, it's 25 verse 14, Shimon.
Simeon.
Yeah.
So it should have been the leaders of Simeon.
I think it should be the leaders of Simeon who recognized their leader or prince, who is essentially right there in the act of bowing down to Baal Peor.
We should have stuck him.
Joining himself to.
Joining himself to this pagan
But
deity.
Phineas, being a Levite,
Right.
stood up and said, okay.
Yeah. Now, he even though he did the right thing, 24,000 people still died in that plague, as it says from last portion.
My understanding was those people that died were because they were the ones that joined themselves to Baal Peor by offering the sacrifice.
I think it's a reasonable statement. It doesn't say that specifically in the scripture, but that does make good sense.
Because those around that did not, they weren't harmed.
Well, when you read the numbers, 24. When you go through the listing of the tribal numbers,
Mhm.
24,000 is about the same amount as a whole tribe's worth of men.
Mhm.
I mean, for example, we read that the census of Shimon
Mhm.
had 22,200 in it,
Mhm.
whereas the census of Reuben were 43,730, which leads you to think probably a big part of the numbers of people that were killed were from Shimon, perhaps, because they have half the amount of their neighbor tribes there. They have half the amount of God and half the amount of Reuben, for example, just cursory glance. So it seems like Shimon may have may have been the most involved, perhaps, because this leader of Shimon thought it was nothing to continue on with this. He didn't understand what was going on.
I don't know. It's hard for me to think that he didn't understand what was going on because of the golden calf incident. It's like, and plus they came out of Egypt, so it's not like he did
Golden
not.
calf was probably by this time, wasn't in most people's memory. At least they didn't survive.
Earlier.
Right.
I got the picture that they're standing around here crying and moaning because of what they were commanded to do.
Of kill all their people.
And they're mourning, oh, what are we gonna do? And here Phineas takes the bull by the horn and does it.
In other words, the place where there are no men, he endeavored to be the
Right.
man. Well, that said, though, it may have been 40 years, but look, how can you forget the golden calf? They had the morning and evening sacrifice daily. God didn't forget. So I don't think they forgot. They knew better. They were, in that 40 years, were raised. And Zimri, he obviously would have been alive during that time.
Why do you say that? What's obvious about it?
He's the chief.
He's not the chief.
He's the clan leader, is he not?
I don't think it says that specifically. It says,
But we know he had been under 40 years of age.
He was a prince of the chief house among the Seminites. My point being is
a prince.
they passed the word down. They would have
All I'm
passed the
saying
word
is,
down.
I don't think there's evidence that he was there at Golden Calf.
He may not have been, but if he
They should have, it's not that they didn't or shouldn't have known. I'm not
Right.
I'm not saying he gets a pass, but
families talk, he would have known. You know,
well,
but even if he didn't, 40 years in the wilderness, worshiping the Lord God, having the tabernacle, having the fire by day and the smoke, or the smoke by day and the fire by night, above the tabernacle. I'm sorry, there's no excuse. You're doing wrong.
so when you think about the people involved here in this incident, from our text previous, we know that it's Caleb and Joshua that go into the land, right?
Yep.
Who else is going into the land?
Only people under age 40.
Which would include Pinchas, apparently, because he lives well into Joshua's time. Pinchas even mentioned in late in the book of Judges.
Yeah.
So he lived a long time. He lived to a very old age.
Yeah.
But he also would have been under age 40 at the time of entering the land.
Right. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying that it's hard for me to believe with everything God has done, even within the 40 years.
Mhm.
Your shoes ain't wearing out. This ain't wearing out. You had manna. Hello. God's right there. You can't tell me you didn't know.
No, right. Well, and it's
And I'm sure the golden calf would have been mentioned again because of the two offerings, the morning and the evening sacrifice, which was instituted because of the golden calf. People talk, things get around,
but
24,000
people from this
people.
tribe of Simeon or Shimon are not really involved in the Tamid offering. It's Levites.
But I know they're not involved, but
They-
people ask questions. People get told things. And they read the book of the Torah every year.
Right. Well, but think about history of Israel. What does our Haftorah portion say about people bowing down to foreign deities? Were they doing it in Jeremiah's time?
Oh, yeah.
It was a habit.
I'm not saying it
It's
wasn't.
apparently it's a very strong draw, whether it's
Yeah.
to bow down to foreign deities or to fit in with the culture you're living in. I mean, if you're living in and around a pagan culture,
But there's another aspect that's associated with what was going on, and that was the immorality side of it.
right?
So that coupled with, that's what they were after, the immorality side along with, but where I'm going with that is, I don't pass the buck and say, oh, well, they just didn't know. Sorry, that doesn't cut it with me. They were told. They were read the Torah. They were read the commandments. They know, don't do this.
Well, that's why they're held guilty
Accountable,
in this,
yes.
accountable for it. Whether they knew it or should have known it might be questionable. I mean, how much if 24,000 people of basically one full tribe's worth of men were killed right here on this day, that's a pretty big percentage. If it's about the same amount as half the tribe, I guess we say, if these tribes are about 40,000 men each, half of a tribe's worth of men were killed on that day. I mean, it's I'll say roughly, 1/12 or 1/24 maybe of all the men were killed on that day.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty big percent. It's maybe a low percentage. You count all of Israel, but it's a pretty big percentage of men who were killed, and probably for falling after what seemed to be okay, or what would allow them to do it. Well, we're Israelites, we won't get caught, sort of thing. So it's the same sort of answer we get a lot, or we see a lot when Yeshua is talking about scriptures with the Prushim or the Pharisees or the Sadducees out there. They, because of cultural, I don't know, you say baggage, but it's not really maybe baggage, it's cultural theory about themselves. We're sons of Abraham. We never did any wrong. That's not really history. But isn't it true though that we all kind of think of ourselves in that same, or could think of ourselves in the same way? Well, we're believers in Yeshua. We'll never fall.
It sounds similar to the argument Korah made.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think like that. I'm a fallible man, and I make too many mistakes to think that I couldn't fall, because I'm telling you, every day is a challenge, but it's hard for me to think they didn't know. You honestly, in my opinion, have to consider you have the tabernacle in the middle of the camp with the angel of the Lord right there. It's like you're not going anywhere. He's right there. Everybody can see this. You saw it from Mount Sinai on.
And still they rebelled.
And still they rebel.
Right. And see, that's the thing. And still they rebelled, meaning that they both
Got complacent,
Knew.
I agree with.
they both knew
Yeah.
and said, this doesn't apply to me.
How can you say it doesn't apply?
Well, why would you do it if you knew it was true, right? You have to say it doesn't apply to me because
because in
whatever.
your heart, you saw something and said, I gotta have it. I don't care.
Somehow they've reasoned out that it doesn't apply to them.
Well, I
That's
would think
possible.
another terminology or phrase of this would be sinning with a high hand, which means you know it's wrong, but we're going to do it anyway.
God will
I give you
understand.
that. That I understand. That I get.
It's full on rebellion, which is why 24,000 people died. So another big issue or thing from this portion is what is Moshe, right? Moshe is told what's going to happen to him, right? What's going to happen?
He's gonna go on Mount Nebo and
not going to the promised land.
That's right.
Here.
At least you got to see it.
But what, yeah, what, didn't he see it before? Because did God tell him that everywhere he had set the sole of his feet, he was going to give Israel? So does that not mean he?
That was Abraham.
That's Abraham.
Oh, was that Abraham? I'm sorry. I'm getting mixed up.
So this is a sort of a funny headline from Israeli newspaper Haaretz. The headline isn't Moshe. It isn't Moshe is not going to go to the promised land. It was Moshe to climb Mount Nebo at age 120. The subheadline: Moshe to die soon. Will be allowed to see the land first.
You know, I know they say he died there, and God buried him. And in one way, I think he died, but it was probably a very peaceful death. He probably just laid down, went to sleep, and immediately woke up and went up with the Lord. That's my opinion.
You can't see it on the screen here, but my favorite headline in section C, the sports section, is Judah United wins in overtime.
Who?
Judah United.
Oh, yeah. Haaretz, Moshe to climb mountain at 820. I mean, if you can be 120 and have the same strength and vigor you did when you were 20, that's amazing.
You have to say it like Winston Churchill. Vigor.
What do you say?
Vigor.
Vigor. Oh, yeah.
So it's hard to see from a distance there, but the family ties here essentially shows how closely the Levites were related, the folks in leadership were related to each other. And it's hard to see it at a distance, but Pinchas has shown his letters are in black, whereas the others are in white. Difficult to see from distance, I apologize for that, but he is son of Eleazar, or Eleazar.
Yep.
And you see him down under the, well, it's hard to see, but there's a connection there going down from Kohat to Amram, and then from Yitzhar, there's Aharon and Korah. So descended from the first son, I'm descended from the second son, excuse me. It's Amram, father of Aharon, who's father of Nadab and Abihu, who died, and Eleazar and Itamar, and thus Pinchas is the grandson of Aharon and the great-grandson of Kohat.
That is hard to see.
Yep. It's easy to see if it was on a bigger screen, perhaps, or bigger font, or something to make it easier to read, but it's not. Sorry. All right, so Pinchas, the war priest. As I said, we see Pinchas late in Judges, book Judges, Judges 20, which reads, "Then the whole army of Israel, all the people went up to Bethel and cried and sat there in the presence of Adonai. They fasted that day until evening, offered burnt offerings and peace offerings to Adonai, and asked Adonai what to do. The covenant of God was there at the time, and Pinchas, son of Eleazar, son of Aharon, stood before it at that time. They asked, should we go out to battle and against our kinsmen, the people of Benjamin, or should we stop? Adonai answered, attack. Tomorrow I'll hand them over to you." So that's where that goes. Pinchas was a leader of the tribe of Shimon, a prince of the tribe of Shimon. Zimri means my music. As I mentioned earlier, Pinchas, house of brass. Some argue that Pinchas meant or means from an Egyptian word meaning dark skinned. Mouth of the brass, possibly mouth of the serpent, would be another way to say Pinchas. But Cosby, a Midianite, the name, according to what I've seen, at least in listing of what the name means, is deceptive or my lie. Not me lie, not Vietnam, my lie. Zur, the other four kings, and Balaam or Balaam were killed together, and that attack was led by the war priest, Pinchas. We see that in, I think it's the next portion, it's chapter 31. So here's an imaginary interview with one of the sons of Shammai, the tribe of Shimon. This interview is really off the record, right?
Unless there's an open mic.
Make sure you have your paleo microphone off. Anyway, life is hard in the desert. Life is also not fair. Things were bad, but now they're worse. First, my cousin Shaphat, son of Hori, goes on this recon mission to the land. He comes back, tells it like it is, then Moshe and the Levites kill him by a plague, along with every other honest scout. Next, anyone who questions these Levites' so-called leadership gets swallowed up alive by the earth or killed by another plague. My uncle says that more Israelites have been killed by plagues than by Egyptians. I think he's right. Now, the latest example of these Levites oppressing the people is this. My cousin Zimri has been seeing this hot Midianite babe. She really is well connected and rich. Her father's one of their kings. Anyway, he shows her off in the camp, and these jealous Levites react by murdering them both and launching a plague that killed 24,000 more Israelites. No trial, no criminal charge. Who do they think they are? Apparently, they think that only Levites like Moshe can take Midianite wives. I hear that the well-named murderer Pinchas, Pei Nachash, mouth of serpent, his own mother was a Midianite. Can you see what kind of oppression we're under here?
Where'd you get this at?
It's on
Fox News.
Figures.
Whoa, might have to be Fox, it could be
I don't know if you noticed,
White
like,
House press secretary.
Yeah. Sounds more like her.
Didn't she have white stuff all over her left neck? Cocaine about?
well, if you notice the top of the slide, an imaginary interview.
Yeah, I got that. I just hit that in there. Oh, wow.
So
Sound like his complaint was more with God than anybody else. God caused all those to happen, not a man.
I think he would hear this. I guess you need to join him.
Well, anyway, the answer is you could reframe the problem as something else, but the reasons that you think were the reasons aren't necessarily what the reasons really were.
are you trying to bore our eyes out?
Yeah, same deal.
So who said that?
Korah.
Korach said that. That's right. Same idea, right?
Yeah.
We can see what's going on here, Moshe.
You can't blind us to what's going on.
You know, I think God fixed him. Korah. Fixed him good. I don't see how he could say that. God's the one who spoke to Moses. Moses is the one who went to the
That's what I
mountain.
was saying. His argument is with God.
Yep.
Man didn't cause all that plague.
Nope. And it wasn't God, or it wasn't Moses and the Levites who killed those 250 wannabe priests.
Nope.
It was God. The fire of God left the temple, or should say temple, and but the censors made hope.
Yeah, but you can't say that it wasn't Pinchas who killed the man and the woman.
I heard he pinned him to the wall. He nailed it. So I think the Lord did his own vengeance.
So here's a couple of translation comparisons with the first couple verses of our portion. The highlighted ones to compare here. He turned back my wrath upon the children of Israel, when he zealously avenged me. among them, so I didn't consume the children of Israel in my vengeance. The Chabad translation, Judaica Press, Complete Tanakh. So zealously avenging, but because of my zeal, so vengeance and zeal are the word being translated somewhat differently. Here is the new Jewish Publication site, JPS. Translates both as passion. His passion for me should not wipe the people of Israel in my passion.
That's a softer way of saying it.
If he hadn't done it, I would have.
And here's New American Standard. He was jealous with my jealousy, so I did not destroy the sons of Israel in my jealousy. So what does it mean, my jealousy, zeal, passion, or vengeance? What's that talking about?
Well, let's just go to Exodus 20 and find out.
Sure. Do you have it? If you have it handy, would you read Shemot, Exodus 20, verses 1 through 5?
I shall.
Thank you.
And Hashem spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord, thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me.
So zeal could equate with jealous.
Zeal and jealous.
They're practically the same word.
Yeah. Showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. So that it's either do
Do or die.
or don't. Yeah, do or die, basically. So that's what I was telling you this morning, that I heard that Wayne was saying was, because basically Wayne was,
Wait, who's Wayne?
Wayne Davis,
Okay.
he was coming out and saying that, it says in Isaiah, those that keep the Sabbath, maintain the Torah, they are the saints. With faith in Messiah Yeshua, they are the saints. If you're not in that camp, you're done. There is no, well, I kind of sort of do this. I even though I eat a piggy sandwich and keep Christmas, I still read the Bible. No, I think that's gonna make a little upset.
God knows my heart.
Yeah, it is wicked, right? Not yours, but I mean,
No, yeah.
but
The reply would be, yes, he does know your heart.
exactly. So this just confirms what I was thinking, because I have that in the back of my mind. What do you call somebody who says, "Oh, you don't have to keep the Sabbath. You don't have to refrain from sinning. God wants you to have faith that He'll save you." Call that a false teacher.
I don't think they would word it, you don't have to refrain. I think they would say, we sin all the time anyhow.
Oh, they say the law is done away, and there is no
Yeah,
sin.
exactly.
Because without a law, there was nothing, no sin.
No,
Who is righteous? God has mercy on all.
Does that mean I can just shoot you and walk away then? That's right?
Yeah, but see, if you're zealous, maybe you should shoot them.
See, that's what nowadays, I don't know if they still exist, Wayne, you might know. There was it's an organization, a group called Pinchas or something like that,
Something like
who
that.
went around killing
I think it was.
or advocating killing people.
Yeah, they didn't do it. They didn't have it in Hebrew. It was Phineas. They used. I think it was like.
Okay, yeah,
I want to say the Phineas priesthood or something along those lines was kind of a.
that's what they call themselves priesthood after that fashion.
Go around purifying the land, huh?
Purifying. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of purifying that needs to happen.
But it was according to how they interpreted it.
Yeah, see,
But see, that's where everybody can run into trouble, because there could be a lot of people that could say, oh, I'm wrong, and then they want to kill me. But wait a minute, who's to say who's wrong here on this? So the circumstances then, when you actually know the will of Yahweh versus the people who think they know the will of Yahweh, and we are told or warned or whatever that whoever kills you will think that he's doing Elohim a favor by killing you.
Right.
But think about this. Phineas, the son of Eleazar, the priest, okay? And at this point, I think it goes along with what you're saying. He was there, and I'm sure God laid it upon his heart, and he said, enough's enough, sock. But he was in a position to make it. And then from there on, God took the rest. And the reason I go down that road is because we can't do that necessarily unless we're in a position to do so, and we're not. You follow me? So I can't go and say, and you don't think to believe like me, then I'm gonna shoot you. I can't do that. Nobody can do that. That's not right.
But it happens like the Taliban or whatever, and
The tallies,
other countries, they get people that are like this.
Yeah.
We execute people here too after they go through the legal process for doing things that are against our laws.
Yep. Just saying.
Yeah, usually it has to be something pretty bad though to be a capital crime here.
I mean, still do it.
Are you familiar with 1 Kings 13? And the man of God said unto the king, if thou wilt give me half thine house, I will not go in with thee, neither will I eat bread nor drink water in this place, for I was charged me by the word of the Lord, saying, eat no bread, drink no water, nor turn again by the same way thou comest. So he went another way, returned not by the way he came to Bethel. But this old prophet in Bethel and his sons came and told him all the works that the man of God did, which he had spoken unto the king. And their father said to them, where did he go? And he sold his sons, his saddle, his donkey, and all of that after the man of God. And he caught up with him and said, art thou the man of God that came from Judah? I am. He said unto him, come home with me and eat bread. And he said, I may not return with thee or go in with thee, neither will I drink bread or water with thee in this place. For I was told me by the word of the Lord, thou shalt not eat bread nor drink water, or turn again and go by the way thou camest. He said unto him, I'm a prophet also as you. And an angel spoke to me and said, the word of the Lord, saying, bring him back with thee into thine house, that he may eat bread and drink water. But he lied to him. And so he left after eating. The lion came along, killed him. And the lion stood there by the carcass, and men passed by and saw it, and they just kept on going. Well, they told it in the city where the old prophet dwelt. And when that prophet brought him back from the way he heard thereof, he said, it is the man of God who was disobedient unto the word of the Lord. So how many people you got going on? Well, God told me to tell you. If God wants to tell me himself. He said, don't do it. All right.
But you can't also, I don't know if you can draw a universal from that. For example, eat no bread might be good for people with blood sugar issues, but it's not a universal commandment, for example.
Well, my point was, God said, go in there, do this, and leave. Don't come back the same way you left. I don't want you to eat anything there. I don't want you to drink anything there. I don't want you to sleep there. I want you to get there, get done, and get out.
Well, right. When someone comes to you and tells you something contrary to what you know to be accurate,
Yes.
then you shouldn't go after them, even someone who claims prophethood status.
Exactly.
So, which command was Pinchas obeying, and who should have been involved?
He's obeying the command of the Lord. And it should have been Moses and Aaron and Eleazar.
Oh, yes, Acharon was dead, so okay.
Moses and Eleazar.
Well, we look at we looked at jealousy, and jealousy is connected to what? idolatry, right?
Yeah.
Idolatry, because he is jealous for your worship, and to worship another deity is idolatry, and then he's jealous for your worship because he wants you to worship him. Idolatry is spiritual adultery, right? And so you could argue that in this case, I looked at it as saying, well, first of all, the leaders of Shimon should have been involved in this, but potentially everyone who knew what the command was from. I mean, they knew the command was to have no other gods before them, but they're doing it anyway, and they're in the mourning. Their mourning doesn't really tell us specifically why they're mourning, but it looks like they're mourning to me because they have to execute judgment on those whom they know were involved in.
We're going to have to kill our own sons.
Because of this sin they've done. But in verse 3 of our portion, I will destroy your high places and cut down your incense altars and heap your remains on the remains of your idols, for my soul shall abhor you. From chapter 26, I guess. It's not Shemot, correction, Vayikra, not Shemot, but Vayikra 26:30. That's what that says there. So again, everyone should have known what they were supposed to be doing, but only Pinchas was the one who was willing to stand at that time. Now, there is a textual anomaly, and there's probably the text is a bit small to see easily, but in a Torah scroll today, the Yud of Pinchas is small, it's tiny. And so there's lots of commentary, at least some commentary on that. What Monty says is that the small Yud seems to indicate the small works of our hands for God go a long way towards the things of the kingdom.
That wasn't a small work of the hand, that was a pretty big work of the hand.
I have to agree with you on that one. That was a major work. I mean, he slew a prince in the tribe of Simeon. It was no small thing.
Well, they're commenting on the small Yud within the name Pinchas, because it's not, climbing Mount Nebo is much more strenuous than throwing a spear about 2 feet.
Maybe physically, or maybe not mentally.
Well, we don't know how heavy the spear was.
We don't know how hard he thought about it before he did that.
That's true.
It doesn't sound like they're. See, with Pinchas, it seems to be you know what's right and you just do it.
Yeah, but I mean,
There wasn't a
it
lot.
wasn't an instant thing because they had time to gather all of Israel, and all that didn't happen like that.
No, but it seems like
Just wait.
the sauntering up of Cosby and Zimri together and going into the tent seems like not a long.
I was always told that Zimri was parading the surround, and it was in front of people, and he's like, that's just too blatant. Thong. Pinning to the
Well,
wall.
it seemed like they just basically then they sauntered in at that point and went into the tent.
I don't know if he necessarily sauntered in. I think he got after it.
No, Cosby and Zimri
Oh.
sauntered in front of the entire gathering.
Exactly. I think Phineas just said, too late.
I'm a prince of Shimon. You're not going to do anything to me. You're the
Really?
daughter of a king. I'm not going to do anything to you.
Didn't work out so well, did it?
So, what is the danger? We have talked about this perhaps a little bit. What is the danger of doing an act like Pinchas did?
To begin with, we're not living in a government that was like that,
True.
or laws that was like that. We're not living in a Torah society.
Well, I came up with five things. Number one, summary executions without witnesses and trial are against the justice prescribed by Torah.
But
Well, in
in
that case,
this
there were a lot of
case,
witnesses.
there was plenty of witnesses, and the execution order was already given.
It was
God's
already
been
given
the
by
judge.
God. He was carrying it out.
There you are. He was
Right,
the judgment of God.
that's true, but in general terms, summary executions without witnesses, testifying, no one testified here, right? It wasn't a trial.
God
Wait,
didn't
wait,
say
wait.
put them on trial.
Wait. They
What is the
testified against
danger?
themselves.
Start again. What is the danger with you, Earl, doing an act like Pinchas?
Oh. Some guy
Oh.
taking it upon himself to, like we were
It's the
talking
Phineas
about,
priesthood doing their thing, killing whom they think is violating God's law. They're going to take their own actions and kill them because
Well, you can kind of liken that in today's society where you happen to walk in on your wife with another man and zop.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do that. That is against the law.
Not really. It's called crime of passion.
The jury sometimes acquit,
crime. Now,
but
what
it's
does that
still a
entail?
crime.
Crime. Is that against the law, or
Exactly.
you answer the question
well,
yourself?
there's such a thing as justifiable.
Oh, justifiable. There's justifiable homicide, but that's only when your life is threatened,
There's other things that.
or someone else's life is threatened.
So I put a
There's other
22 in
things,
his
not
hand.
just life threatened. There's other mitigating circumstances.
In Texas, property, not in Oklahoma.
Not in most states.
What?
Okay.
Defensive property
You can't defend property in Oklahoma
Yes, you can.
with
with deadly force.
deadly
Yes,
force.
you can.
You can. It's not legal.
Yes, you can. You still have to go through the trial process.
So it's a matter of whether a jury will convict you or not, is what you're saying, but you could be
You
convicted.
have
He
legal
had a
standing.
22 in his hand. I thought he was going to shoot my wife.
Well, that's different than someone stealing your TV set.
Oh, if you were stealing my TV set,
You are securing your
You're
life
good to be
and your
getting rid of
property.
it.
I wouldn't say property. I wouldn't use the word
Now,
Well,
property.
if
I'm
someone-
telling you guys what it says.
I know.
Go read it.
I'm just saying, I wouldn't use property. I was fearful of my life. He was going to throw the TV at me, so I could stop the action.
Oh, boy.
And that's why the prosecuting attorney said, I'm going to charge you with felony murder.
Well, charging is one thing. Actually getting convictions. is another.
Oh, sure.
But when you're in somebody's house and you weren't invited in,
Well, we're not describing the same thing here, are we?
man, I couldn't see what all he had in his hand.
I'm just saying stealing property is not legal, but
Depends on the circumstance.
but it's not to be defended with deadly force.
No. In general, no. But if they're breaking into your house, yeah.
Well, breaking into your house is a different level of crime
That's my point.
because that assumes that someone is doing you harm.
That
when
was
they're
the point
breaking
he
into
was
your
making.
house.
Yes. My point was, he's in the house. I don't care what he's got in his hands. As far as I'm concerned, he's not supposed to be there. He broke in. He's trying to hurt me. Bang. Stop the action.
Right, but maybe he's somebody that had a mental disability, or he had a cognitive impairment from low blood sugar or
Doesn't
whatever.
What are you supposed to do? Wait and see if it kills you or not?
Yes.
You know, you're not.
It really
That
happens
you have the right to not let that happen.
that people
As long as he's
Enter the
inside
wrong
your
house.
domicile,
by
Amazing
mistake.
when we think they know everything.
if he's inside your domicile, you have the opportunity. Now, the only time you really need to be careful is when he turns and runs. Because if he turns and runs, he's leaving.
Tell you
They
what,
do not count that.
it
as-
happens a lot that people walk up to a car that looks very similar and they try opening the door to the car and there might be somebody else in there. Or on these streets with the houses where every house looks identical to the next one, which we see this a lot in Pennsylvania. People get confused about which house is theirs
That's because they're
and they walk up to the
drunk.
wrong house.
They're drunk.
Or they're used to this truck's always parked here and the guy parks it one house down some night and then they turn in one driveway too soon.
It's
And all the
all-
houses are identical. I mean,
Where's
it
the rights
happens.
of the person walking
True.
home?
Well, even in such a case,
Are you supposed
there
to
was a
write
recent
a questionnaire and all
a
that?
case, I'm not sure how recent now, where there were two students who did not speak English very well. They showed up to something they thought was a party. They were wearing masks. They tried to enter the house. The homeowner shot and killed one of them, and the other one ran off. The homeowner was charged, but he was found innocent of murder.
Because it's a mistake a reasonable person could make.
But was it a wise decision to shoot that guy?
You don't know.
You don't know if it was wise or not at that point.
Well, at the point in hindsight, it cost him a lot of cash to defend himself against a murder charge.
Right.
But at least he wasn't dead.
He wasn't dead, but the person who was killed wasn't actually a threat either.
But you don't have time to assess that.
But you usually do.
No, you don't.
Well, that's police officer training. That's why police officers shoot 3 innocent people every day.
Oh, come on now.
It's serious. In the
Let's
United
just
States,
get rid
police
of them then.
officers shoot 3 unarmed innocent people every day.
You are.
And that's how many mistakes police make, because they like,
How many times?
I don't have time.
How many
to
times do
decide.
you have to, by your job, confront people who are maybe out
And
to
that's
get
why
you?
they're out
You
shooting
don't.
innocent
That's
people.
why they get preferential treatment on
Yes.
what they were thinking
And-
before they did that.
And they get to shoot innocent people every day that
They get
I
to shoot
can't.
criminals too. If
Not
they
supposed
if they couldn't do that, your life, I could kill you if I wanted to. I'd suffer for it probably.
Your average
gotta
police
have-
officer doesn't really.
Anyway,
want to
it's
shoot
clearly police training.
And what's wrong with that?
nothing.
They shoot a lot of innocent people.
Oh,
Because
these
they
gang
don't-
members don't?
They don't have, they
What
don't
about-
take the time to assess whether
Yeah.
there's an actual
What
threat.
about all the police officers that died because they waited? They
You're an
made
idiot.
sure that person was innocent, but they died because that person
No,
came
they-
over gun and
This
killed them.
happens. And
Oh, you're not saying anything about that. That's okay. They can go ahead and kill those cops.
as
That cop
opposed
was
to what?
See,
A police officer killing somebody who is innocent, that should not happen either. The police officers can wear armor. They can use shields. They can do whatever
Have
they
you
need.
ever moved around in body armor? It's not that easy. It's not as easy as people think. And running in body armor is
It
not
doesn't
easy.
matter. If we're going to have police doing this, the police have to be the ones who are professional and calm and make the rational decisions. Because